Good day, fellow claymates. It is LJ the Warrior speaking from the tops of High Rock, and I welcome you all to my very first episode of this Warrior Cats podcast. Yeah, so Warrior Cats podcast. This is an idea that may not sound like incredibly original or anything like that, but I was just kind of thinking, and you see all these big named Warrior Cats YouTubers like Tennille Flowers and Moon Kitty and Blixme and Bright Guardian and Kira, and it's like there isn't really like a podcast dedicated to warrior cats out there that's actually really that popular. And I was like, dude, I need to start this for real because I think the Warrior Cats is a great series and it deserves something worth the level of a podcast. It really does. So, here basically I'm going to be talking mostly about Warrior Cats at this point. I may have a random episode where I just talk about something like completely different. But yeah, this is mainly going to be a Warrior Cat centered podcast. If you guys want me to get like a certain guest on here, maybe a YouTuber or maybe one of my classmates who also knows Warriors, you can just let me know and I'll try to do that. But hey man, this is a rough draft. This is exactly what this is. So I can't tell you it's gonna go great, but I don't know if it'll go bad either. So hey, first take, let's do this thing. So for this first episode, I'm not actually really gonna be talking much about my opinions on the series. I'm not really gonna be like, going into depth with certain characters and certain books and stuff along those lines, mainly because this is the first episode. I'm going to be laying down a lot of foundation, a lot of groundwork for the series before I get into the real deep and in-depth stuff, you know what I'm saying? So really this first episode, it's going to be a shorter one. The ground I'm going to cover isn't really that deep. It's pretty shallow, so this honestly may be like a 10 to 15 minute debut podcast episode. Which, that's okay for our first episode. This is the first time I've ever done this. It's about 2:30 on a Monday, and I'm here in my room using my phone voice memo. So this is definitely going to be an interesting first take of this podcast. But, hey, you know what? Everyone's got to start somewhere. PewDiePie's first video was probably scuffed also. So some of the main things I'm going to be covering here are, first, of course, how I got into the books, because if I'm going to be making this podcast about these books, obviously I've had to have, read them. I don't understand how I could make content over something that, I've never even read before. That'd be pretty weird. And that's clearly why I'm not doing that. So, yeah, I've been reading Warriors for, a while now, and we'll get into many of my first experiences with not just the books themselves, but the people behind the books, a lot of the authors, as well as other fans of the series, which the Warriors community is oh gosh, the Warriors community. Oh boy, that's a fun place, let me tell you. I do like the Warriors community. I do like us. It's always nice to share interests with other people and have people who are so passionate about something and love something just as much as you. But a lot of times you get, honestly, they aren't bad apples if mostly the tree is rotten. You know what I'm saying? And honestly, I feel like with a lot of people from the Warriors community, that is the case. Where actually, hold on. I can't. Okay, I'm getting too into depth already. I'm already getting sidetracked. I knew this was going to happen. I was just going to ramble into the microphone for 15 minutes, and then I was going to call it. And that's exactly what's probably going to happen. But you know what? I'm going to allow it because this is my podcast. Mrs. Ross, I'm going to tell you what's up because I know you're going to be watching this. And honestly, you'll probably be the only person that does watch this. So hi. But now, to finally get on topic, basically some of the main things I'm going to be discussing are the books I read, what order I read the books in, and how I first got into the books, my first experiences with them, so some of my thoughts and feelings when I was reading the series for the first time, because you guys will find in later episodes that my opinions on certain books and certain characters have changed quite a bit in the years that I've read the series. And then I'm also, of course, going to be talking about my first and, most experiences with the Warrior Cats community, because honestly, at this point, I try to veer myself away from the Warrior Cats community because, if you know, you know with the Warrior Cat. If you know, you know with the community. It can get quite messy sometimes with very off the wall and things that should not be dramatic, but they are, and it's a big deal. And the Warriors wiki and everything that goes on with that, and it's a problem. And okay, it can get extremely messy, I will say. But let's finally get into it. So, how do most people get into Warriors? I mean, it's a book, and the way you pick up a book for the first time, honestly, can you really, like, it's kind of hard to have outlandish stories on how you pick up a book and read it for the first time. Like, really, all it is, hey, my parents bought me this book, maybe, as, like, a birthday present. Or, I was bored at the library, and I saw this book, and I like cats, so I picked it up. Or I like fantasy books. I read the Survivor series and I saw Warriors was an option. I read Seekers and I saw Warriors was an option. Friends at my school were reading this book, so I decided that I was going to read it too because I want to be like them. Yeah, really, there's not very many ways that somebody can pick up a book and read it for the first time. It's hard to be very outlandish with a lot of those stories because they're very simplified. They are very, very simplified how you can pick up a book and read it for the first time. And really with me, it was no exception at all. In fact, I remember the exact day I picked up Warriors. It was December 2014 was when I read Warriors for the first time. Really, I was just in 4th grade, you know? Do you guys remember 4th grade? Let me know about how 4th grade was for you guys. I was quite the talkative, obnoxious, troublesome kid back in 4th grade. I wasn't as bad as some of the other kids, and honestly, my grades were pretty good. But I loved to talk, and I got in trouble a lot for it. But anyway, this isn't Lucas Talks About 4th Grade. This is LJ the Warriors Warrior Cats podcast, because you know the vibes. Getting back to the main topic, I read Warriors for the first time in December of 2014, and, well, it was a little strange at first, because a kid at my school was reading the books, and I was looking for a new book to read. So I asked the kid, I was like, hey, yo, man, it's like, yo, what you reading there? And the kid was like, hey, yo, I'm just reading these books called Warriors. And I was like, okay, I do like cats. I love animals, by the way. I love all animals. Since it had animals in it. And I also love fantasy books, by the way. I just think the ability that writers have to just create their own world from scratch and have all these rules and characters and locations to it. I've always just found it really, really cool and really, really interesting. And I looked at it and I read the back of one of the books, and well, it became very clear to me that it was a fantasy novel, and it was about animals. Like, I love cats. They're probably my favorite animal out there. I love cats. So I was thinking, I was like, this sounds like a great idea. So I asked the kid, I was like, hey, yo, can you tell me some stuff about these books? And they were like, yeah, sure. So they basically explained to me one of the books, and they explained to me what the characters were, like who a couple of the characters were and what they were doing. In fact, I specifically remember meeting up with this person at the local library after school that day so we could discuss more about the books. Yeah, I know. It was a fun time, man. I wish I could go back to that very snowy December day and just learn about Warriors for the first time. Anyway, they told me about Warriors. In fact, what we did was we went through one of the books, and I just pointed at every single character in there and the allegiances, and they explained them to me. So if this person for some reason is watching this podcast, which I heavily doubt they are, but hey, if you're listening to this podcast right now, they know who they are. They know who I'm talking about right now. I'm just going to say, hey, you. Thank you so much, man. You've made my life so much better these past few years. Just thank you. Then after that, I pretty much decided, I was like, yeah, these books sound really, really good. I don't know if they're going to, they sound good, but I kind of had a sense of doubt because I didn't know if they were actually going to, be good. But I entered the first book I read with a sense of optimism. And with this sense of optimism, I was like, you know what? This is going to go perfectly okay. I'm going to read this, I'm going to love it, and then when the book series is over, I'm just going to move on to something else. Now, that is not what happened. So here, I've been refraining from telling people this because I'm kind of ashamed of it now. But the first book I started, like the first Warrior Cats book I read, was not Into the Wild. Of course, Into the Wild is the first book in the Warrior Cat series, but it was not the first book that I read, and I apologize. I apologize to Warrior Cats fans out there who are upset at me for not reading Into the Wild first. And my defense, those books, they were at my local library, the local library that my grandmother works at, so I've had plenty of opportunities to get it, but I just haven't. There's a real long pause right there, by the way. Like, I just didn't know it was there. I just had no idea. But they did have it at the school library, and I was like, okay, this is at the school library. I'm gonna check this out. I'm gonna see what's up. So I grabbed it, and it was the site. It was Power of Three. It was not It was not Into the Wild. No, 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 no. It was the site. They did not have the original arc in the school library. Now, I don't believe it was called that. I don't believe at the time. I don't think it was called The Prophecies Begin. They started the whole Prophecies Begin thing after they started coming out with the new wave of cover arts, which I think came in like the year 2015 or something like that, was when they started with a lot of the newer, when they updated the cover arts for a lot of the books. Now, I did have an original copy of Into the Wild, like I had the original cover art and everything, but I actually ended up giving that to my 8th grade language arts teacher. And I don't know if he has it. I'm gonna need to ask. I'll probably see him pretty soon. I'm gonna ask him if he has it. In fact, I low key just may send an email right now. I low key just may just send an email after this episode. But yeah. So I do have. Of course, I have the updated version of it because I bought all the books, and I bought, you can buy all the main story arcs in sets of 6 because they always are released in sets of 6, and then you can buy them in complete sets together for like $40-$50. And I have all of the main arc books coming up to A Vision of Shadows, excluding Dawn of the Clans because I hate Dawn of the Clans, and you'll find that out pretty soon. But I don't have the complete set of The Broken Code because The Broken Code hasn't finished yet. The next book doesn't come out till November 9th. That's when that arc caps off, and then of course there's another arc following after that, which I don't know what it's called because I forgot the name. And there's one of many, many off-topic rambles because, well, this is a podcast, and podcasts are not scripted, so I'm going to be getting off-topic many, many times, so just, over the course of these next few episodes, just be prepared for something like that. But anyway, this was back in 2014, so this was before they came out with the new wave of cover arts. So I didn't start with Into the Wild. I started with the site because they had all of Power of 3. Yeah, they were completely set on Power of 3 in my local school library, but they did not have anything else. Like seriously, they had Power of 3 and that was it. I don't know why they decided on just Power of 3 because that's an interesting arc to just have Power of 3. I guess it would be worse to have I think it would be worse to have Almond of the Stars or something like that because of how much the events of Power of 3 banks off of into Almond of the Stars. Without Power of 3, Almond of the Stars is bad without Power of 3 because Power of 3 lays down much groundwork. So it could have been worse, but we need to just be happy with the fact that it was Power of 3. And the reason why Power of 3 is better than some others is because Power of 3 starts in the point of view of 3 kids, okay? There's no apprentice, there's no warrior. No, it starts in the point of view of 3 kids. And while we do kind of get to learn the rules with them, and we do kind of get to learn what is expected and a lot of the traditions and customs and a lot of the characters compared to some others. If you I'm telling you, the new prophecy, the new prophecy just kicks it into gear with Brambleclaw. Like Brambleclaw's already a warrior in Midnight. That would not work for a starter. That would not work as a starter. Honestly, none of these books besides Into the Wild are supposed to start as a starter book, but due to the lacking of resources in my elementary school library and my naiveness and obliviousness when I was like 9, 10 years old, my first book was The Sight, and I read all the way through Power of Three. Without knowing that there were other parts to it. But there's something else also. So, in December, like early December, I want to say the exact date was December 9th, 2014 was when I read Warriors for the first time. I'm not quite sure it was December 9th, but it was in like early to mid-December. And I got through it pretty slowly. I think I read like the first 150 pages of The Sight, and then I ended up on the day before Christmas break in fourth grade, my school librarian suggested that I should read Guardians of Ga'Hoole. I was like, okay, yeah, sure, I'll read Guardians of Ga'Hoole. So basically, I read the capture, which I actually have the capture. I have the capture, actually. I own that book. I haven't read it in an extremely long time, but I do have the capture from the first book in Guardians of Ga'Hoole. If you don't know what Guardians of Ga'Hoole is, there's also a movie to it. I think a lot of people have heard of the movie Guardians of Ga'Hoole. It was a big flop, and honestly, it was a bad movie, but the movie does exist out there, from the creators of Happy Feet, by the way. So if you haven't seen Guardians of Ga'Hoole or read the books, honestly, I'd say the books are better, but especially the books that the movie covers. The books obviously do a better job telling the story. But anyway, but I ended up reading those books for the rest of fourth grade, and I started reading them into fifth grade as well, like into like much of fifth grade. I think I read throughout like the summer in between fourth and fifth grade. I think I read, I'd say about 8 or 9. I think I got to like book 8 or 9 by the end of by the Christmas break in fourth grade to the beginning of fifth grade. I'm pretty sure I got to around book 8 or 9. And well, the local library, the one that my grandma works at earlier, they had books 1 to 13. All right, the books like the books that my school library had, they had books 1 through 6. Honestly, if the book series ended at number 6 with Cludd dying, I would have been perfectly okay with it. But no, they had to stretch it longer into 15 books. Of course, the library only had up to 13. So after 13, I was like, oh, okay, well, I thought the series was over after 13. So I ended up putting Guardians of Ga'Hoole back down, and I decided, and I was like, all right, you know what? I did kind of enjoy Warriors when I read it for the first time in fourth grade, so I'm going to continue to do it. And then I picked it up in sometime, it was sometime, like, I'd say, like, maybe October, something, I don't know, October 2015, something, like, I don't know, something in that time. And I ended up picking it up, and then I read over the course of the rest of the school year. I ended reading all the way through I read through Power of Three, and then by the time I got through Power of Three, I think I had like 3 or 4 weeks of school left. Apparently, I'm a very, very slow... in other words, this is me just indirectly telling you guys that I'm a very, very slow reader when it comes to these things. But anyway, I've always been more of like an analysis kind of guy. So anyway, as I was saying, I had maybe I had like a month or two left of the school year, and actually, I specifically remember when I ended up checking a Warriors book out at the library. I ended up checking it out, and again, It was not the first arc. It was not the first arc, no. What it was the fourth apprentice. So I went right from Power of Three and I went straight to Almond of the Stars because I asked the lady that was working at the library at the time, I asked her what came after Power of Three, and she's like, okay, Almond of the Stars comes after Power of Three. So I was like, oh, okay. I mean, I'll just do that then. So I read The Fourth Apprentice. I absolutely hated it, and then the school year ended. So I was like, okay. So what am I gonna do in that time? Well, within that time, finally I learned how to work a computer, and I started doing some research of Warrior Cats, and I figured out that there were 2 complete story arcs before the first book that I read. So my grandma, of course, works at the library, so she can plug me with any book at all. She's the plug when it comes to books, obviously, because she's my grandma and she works at the library. So she gets me the first arc, which I read in the summer between 5th and 6th grade, as well as a few super editions, which actually, I can't believe I'm mentioning this now, but the first super edition I read was Blue Star's Prophecy. My dad got me that. My dad got me that, I think, in February 2015, I think is when I got that. Yeah, I think that's the exact date, because I remember, or I might have been in 6th grade, but I think I was in 5th grade. But yeah, I asked for that book because it had a blue cat on it, and I like the color blue. I read through that one, and then I eventually read through the new Prophecy after that. And then I got into Almond of the Stars around the start of 6th grade, and I remember the local library, the one that I said my grandma works at, did not have The Last Hope. They didn't have it. And I was very, very disappointed. So what I did was I just asked for it, and I got it on my 11th birthday. Yes. I got a copy of The Last Hope on my 11th birthday. I still have that copy, and that is still sitting that's currently on my bookshelf in my closet. I've read that book many times, probably 5 or 6 times up to this point. But anyway, then after that, I read a lot of the super editions in between throughout middle school. I read a lot of the super editions. In fact, I've read all the super editions. The manga series I read, I think, like 8th grade, freshman year, somewhere in that area. And since then, really, I read Dawn of the Clans throughout the summer once. And then since then, I've really just been keeping up with new releases and just making sure that I get new releases as they come out. Because I remember when I was in 6th grade, I had Saturday detention, and I brought Thunder and Shadow with me. When I was in detention, and when I was at Saturday detention in 6th grade, I specifically remember doing that. I don't know, sheesh. I don't know, that just specifically sticks out in my head. Which, of course, Thunder and Shadow was the second book in the Vision of Shadows. But, yeah, so I specifically remember that. And then really, I've just been making sure that I get and read new releases as they come out. And honestly, this is low-key kind of just trickled into my first experiences with Warriors. So honestly, I can just throw those two into the same topic and use the rest of the time I have for talking about the Warrior Cats community. So, anyway, well, let's begin with the community, right? So, the day I first learned about Warrior Cats online was in between 5th and 6th grade. And I just Googled it, and I found a couple fan fictions. Luckily, they were not graphic because, oh gosh, people know. If you know, you know with those fan fictions and Wattpad stories. Ooh, boy, those can get rather graphic. But that's I'm not going to talk about that. But I read those, and I also saw that there was character art and whatever, and the wiki. I learned a lot about the wiki and read about some of my favorite characters that I'd heard of to that point. I'd read about them, which did spoil a few things for me, which I was not happy with. But anyway, and then one day, I don't know why, I just looked up Warrior Cats on the App Store. I just looked up Warrior Cats, and then I got an app called Warrior Cats Amino. Yeah, Warrior Cats Amino. Oh boy, well, don't we just love the Warrior Cats Amino? Don't we just love Amino in general, right? Of course, it was 2016. I remember the exact date. The exact date was December 3rd, 2016. And the reason why I know it was December 3rd, because I had my very first middle school dance was that day. I remember because it was on a Friday, and I just remember that date very, very specifically in my brain, uh, because I remember it because again it was my first ever middle school dance, and I was at the library on my LG tablet. I think it was at the time. I think it was an LG tablet, and I looked it up and I saw this. I was like, oh cool. So I made an account and whatever. And well, I sounded pretty dumb because people were asking me for bios when I joined roleplay chats, and I had no idea what they were talking about. But I figured it out. I've ended up figuring it out. And well, really, since then, like I remember I joined this one group, like roleplay thing called Night Clan, and oh boy, I spent just hours throughout the summer, throughout Christmas break, just begging my grandma to let me go to the library so I could play on my tablet and roleplay with those people. And oh boy, they were just the best people ever. They were so nice, and we had such an amazing roleplay plot and everything. It was so great. But I haven't talked to any of those people probably in over a year and a half at this point. But I mean, to the people in Night Clan, if you're somehow listening to this, what's up, everybody? I guarantee you can't hear me. I also joined this Jungle Clan roleplay when I was in like 8th grade. Yeah, I was at the start of 8th grade. I joined this Jungle Clan roleplay, and oh boy, most of my summer in between 8th and 9th grade was spent in that Jungle Clan roleplay. Let me tell you. Oh boy, dude, I just love that. I love that group so much. We were very toxic, and that group caused me much anger. But still, man, I look back on those times with fondness. So shout out freaking Alder, Rain, Brooke, Laser, Mudsplash. You know what I'm saying? Shout out all the boys there from Jungle Clan. If for some reason you're watching this, dude, imagine if any of those guys are watching this podcast right now. I'd be absolutely stoked. But yeah, so just shout out to all of you guys. And then, well, a lot of arguments and lots of toxicity, lots of sensitivity to literally every single thing. And well, it just got to a point with me where I just kind of realized, I was like, yeah, you know what? This is just way too mentally taxing because the people here are just overly toxic, and there's so much arguing, and there's just so much claim of manipulation and mental abuse and blah, 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 blah. Crap that obviously isn't true. So I was just like, you know what? This is enough. This is enough of this. It just wasn't it, man. So I just decided to just distance myself from the Warriors community. And now the only thing I'm a part of Blixamy's private Discord server because I'm a Patreon of hers, as well as Bright Guardian and Kira. I'm also a Patreon of hers as well. So those are like the only things that I do really that involve the Warrior Cats community. Honestly, I'm not even active on those Discord servers. I'm just kind of there on them. Yeah, so I'm just not really part of the Warrior Cats community anymore. I'll watch a video like when Akira, Neil, when those guys when they come out with videos, I'll watch them. But honestly, I'm not really in discussion much with the Warrior Cats community anymore. Honestly, to me, that's for the best. Anyway, that'll wrap up this first episode. Oh boy, I hope this goes well. Oh geez, I don't know why I just want to have this feeling that I think this is going to perform well. When I know it's probably not. It's going to flop, and I think the only person that's going to watch it is my teacher and like maybe like 3 or 4 other people. So I don't think this is going to go anywhere. But hey, you know what? I'm doing this for school. I'm doing this because I wanted to talk about Warriors, and I'm going to be doing that. All right. Next podcast is going to come out in 2 weeks. I'm going to drop a podcast at once every bi-weekly podcasts. It's going to be great. Anyway, that'll just about wrap up this episode. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Have a wonderful day, and, well, may StarClan light your path.